What's going on, guys? In this video, I want to put some albums on your radar that you absolutely should be looking forward to this year. There's a lot of good stuff slated for 2021. I'm going to share with you what I'm looking forward to, as well as a couple of rumored albums and just some hopes that aren't rumored, but it just would make sense. So let's go through the list right now, but make sure you leave a comment with the albums you're looking forward to. I always love hearing new stuff that's not on my radar and adding it to it. So let's talk albums. First up, we have Drake's Certified Lover Boy. Now, I haven't been a huge Drake fan for a while. Ultimately, for me, Drake has fallen off pretty heavily ever since Nothing Was the Same. I've liked a couple tracks here and there. There are some good tracks on Views. Passion Fruit was one of my favorite later career Drake tracks for sure. But ultimately, he hasn't been able to put together a full package that I've loved since Nothing Was the Same. I heard the single for Certified Lover Boy, and I thought it sounded the most like old Drake in a long time. It wasn't an incredible song, but it was fun, it was laid back, and it gives me vibes that I'm hoping he'll continue throughout the album with. Who knows what he has in store, but I have a good feeling this one's gonna surprise us. Julien Baker finally is coming back with her third studio album, Little Oblivions. I have been such a stan of Julien Baker ever since I saw her at FYF Fest in LA on a tiny stage with about 150 people in a tent, and she was so thankful that she was playing for us, and she was so thankful that we were there, and she put on one of the most mesmerizing shows I've seen in a very long time. I then went on and saw her a few more times, including on the Boy Genius show. She just has a knack for such beautiful songwriting that is so intimate and fragile and almost hard to listen to at times because it's like you're listening to her diary. But the vocal tone she has over her instrumentation is entrancing, and I cannot wait for this album. I think this will definitely be a top 5 of the year if I had to wager ahead of time. Lana Del Rey's Chemtrails Over the Country Club. Didn't really pay attention to her recent release, which I guess was spoken word poetry. Not really my thing, but NFR, her last album, was one of my favorites of the year. I have a love-hate relationship with Jack Antonoff. I think that some of the stuff he does is amazing, and some of the albums he touches, notably St. Vincent's last album, he kind of ruins and makes it a little too perfect and poppy, and it just wasn't my thing. Him and Lana are a match made in heaven, and I liked Lana Del Rey fine up until NFR, and NFR was the album that I was like, wow. She actually is an incredible songwriter, and when she works with a great producer, magic happens. They're working together again for Chemtrails, and if it's half as good as the last album, it's definitely going to be on the top 10. Where will it land? We'll have to find out. Porter Robinson is coming out with Nurture, the long-awaited follow-up to the absolute opus Worlds. Worlds is a J-pop inspired electronica album that is extremely emotional. It has a lot in common with emo, just as much as it does EDM, but it blends them in a way that's extremely accessible for people that don't like either of those genres a lot. It's a nice middle ground that has elements of both that I enjoy without being too overwhelming. The new album doesn't quite sound as saccharine as Worlds did, but it definitely has that emotional element to it. And you can tell by a couple of the singles so far that his production skills have been honed even further. I love the singles so far, and I can't wait to hear what the full album sounds like. St. Vincent has an album coming out. We don't know what it's called. I saw some outlets reporting it called Locked and Loaded, but I don't know if that's what it's actually called. I think that's just something that she said about the album, that it's locked and loaded, ready to go. Apparently, she's worshiping at the feet of some of her idols, a couple of the, funk and soul legends of the past. So I think this could be one of her best albums if it's the way I think it's going to sound. I didn't love Mass Seduction that much. It's not bad, it's just I didn't love it as much as her self-titled or Actor or some of her earlier stuff. I'm hoping that this one is a hit. She really hits more than she misses, and any new St. Vincent material is always worth your listen. Repping him right now, Kid Cudi. Just barely made my top 10 list of last year. I'm really enjoying a lot of the tracks, especially on the latter half of that album. But he has a show coming out called Intergalactic, and he apparently has an album to go with that. So I don't know if that's going to be more of a soundtrack for his show or if it's a companion album. Either way, I'm excited for more Cudi tracks. I need that humming in my life. Madlib and Fortet are teaming up for Sound Ancestors. If you're not familiar with either, Madlib and Fortet are considered to be two of the best producers in music, with Madlib focusing on hip-hop, Fortet focusing on electronic, but they both are so eclectic that they could really cross over into each other's genres if they wanted to. Their skill sets are unmatched, and the two of them working together is bound to be legendary. I mean, these two are at the top of their game and so respected within their genres that working together on an album, I don't quite know what to expect. All I know is it's going to be definitely one that I'm going to be listening to as soon as I can. Psychedelic Porn Crumpets are back. PPC does not miss either. Along with King Gizzard, they are my favorite Australian psych rockers. All of their albums are masterful and they do not have the acclaim they deserve. They should be as big as King Gizzard. Granted, they have way fewer albums than KG. But that being said, if you haven't heard PPC yet, definitely listen to their first albums. They're going to blow you away, and they haven't missed yet, so I think this is definitely going to be one that's going to be fantastic. And then the Paper Kites, a band that I think gets way too little acclaim. I loved their double album they put out a couple years ago. I think those tracks are absolutely beautiful, melancholy, and just some of my favorite songs from singer-songwriter type bands in a long time. Roses, their upcoming album, is unique in the sense that it features, I think, a different female vocalist on every track. That kind of gives me the vibes of the National I Am Easy to Find, where they take a proven sound and they add these amazing female textures to kind of build on the world. And the single I heard is wonderful, so this is definitely one I'm highly anticipating. And then a couple rumored albums that are basically kind of just through the grapevine. You've heard things, you've read things. They should come out, but there's no official announcement. The first being Kings of Convenience. It has been a long time since Declaration of Dependence. KOC, as you guys know if you watch this channel or talk to me at all, is one of my all-time favorite bands. Their harmonies are unlike anything else except for maybe Simon and Garfunkel. And truthfully, their music just speaks to me. Sometimes it's bossa nova influenced, sometimes it's just kind of laid back, or sometimes they have Feist guest vocaling on some tracks. They really just managed to capture this extremely laid back vibe on all of their albums that very few artists can do so consistently and so well. Apparently their new album is almost done or done based on some Instagram posts from Erlendoy, and I hope that it comes out this year. It's been a long time and I think we're ready. Similarly, we know Little Ugly Mane, or his other side project, Bedwetter, are sitting on a ton of material. Ugly tends to talk about material he has and not release it, which is frustrating for the fans. But this year I hope we see another Lum project or another Bedwetter. Either is great. I don't know where he's going to go stylistically because he is so talented as a producer. He can really do something extremely in-your-face and clubby and gangster like Mr. Thug Isolation, or something introspective and dark like Oblivion Access or the first Bedwetter album. I don't know, but I just want more. I would love for a new Alt-J record because it's been a while since their last record, Relaxer, and I love their first two records, the first one being in my top 10 albums of all time. I did not love Relaxer that much. There were a couple good tracks, but ultimately as an album it let me down. Now, 2 out of 3 ain't bad, and I'm hoping that if they come back again, they're going to come back strong with something that's reminiscent of the first 2 records, which are 2 of the most unique and vocally brilliant records I've ever heard, with the way that they chant and bring in their layers of vocals in a way that no one else is really doing. I love Alt-J, and I'm hoping they have a new album soon. Vampire Weekend blew me away with Father of the Bride, and I know that Ezra has been working on material. He's been talking about that. He said he wanted to release 2 more albums in the next 5 years, I believe, and I think he said that around the time Father of the Bride came out. Sounds like it could be an opportunity for an album this year. All I know is they absolutely surprised me with how incredible their last album was, and I'm hoping that the next one follows suit. And then we have Frank Ocean. Obviously Blonde has made waves. The record goes for almost $1,000 these days. Frank has reached a legendary status with most people, and unfortunately there was the tragedy of his brother passing away last year. I can't imagine what he's going through. I know that he was working on music prior to that because he had put out a few singles. Again, those may not even be singles that are related to whatever the next LP may be. I hope that he puts out music. I would completely understand if he didn't. I mean, he experienced a devastating loss unexpectedly. We are not entitled to any music from him, but I think that, if he finds catharsis in making music, maybe we'll get something very emotional and melancholy. I don't know. All I know is that he was planning on doing something, and maybe this is the year for it. System of a Down put out 2 songs randomly on a 7-inch a couple months ago. That was extremely unexpected. I don't know if they're going to do a full album. I think that was for a charity cause, but either way, they still sound great, and I hope that there's some fire in them to be able to put out a new album. It has been a long time since their last studio LP, and the world needs some System of a Down right now. Soundgarden could have an album this year. I know that's crazy. I know Chris Cornell passed away, but if you haven't been following it, there are a lot of tracks they were working on prior to Chris's death. A lot of his vocals were completed. I know the band was working with his wife, Vicky, to try to figure out who can release it and how it can be released and how they can finish it. I think they've finally reached a point where all parties are saying there will be new Soundgarden music. So that would be one of the biggest gifts to music any of us could receive. More Chris Cornell vocals after his untimely death. But we'll see what happens if it actually gets finished. Better Oblivion Community Center 2. I remember when Better Oblivion Community Center came out, which is the collaboration between Connor Oberst and Phoebe Bridgers. I love that album. I still do to this day. I think it's a perfect 10. Every song is great. And when it came out, they said they had a bunch of other songs recorded ready to go. Well, Phoebe's done with her Punisher album cycle. Connor's done with his last album cycle. I feel like this is the time where they can pop it out and keep the train going, because Phoebe dominated last year, let's be real. Maybe even the last few years. Phoebe Bridgers is having the time of her career right now, and I want it to keep going, so let's keep putting out these projects. Let's do Better Oblivion this year. Let's do another Boy Genius next year, and then maybe the third Phoebe Bridgers album the next year after that. That's just a dream world. Who knows? Kendrick Lamar. Damn was an amazing record, but it has been a while since that came out. I remember reading something last year or the year before that his next album was going to be a lot more guitar focused, which is interesting. Normally when rappers go from rap to rock, it's a disaster. I'm talking about Lil Wayne's Rebirth. But ultimately, I think that he could make it work because Kendrick is a visionary. He's a genius. He's not going to do something cheesy as a gimmick and risk alienating his fan base, which absolutely loves him so much, and he could do no wrong for us. I think the new albums that come out this year, the question is, what is it going to sound like and when? Kanye West's Donda was supposed to come out last year, and of course it didn't. Kanye is the king of announcing albums and then not dropping them and then completely scrapping them. I'm looking at you, TurboGrafx16. Donda's samples sounded great. I remember he played a video on Instagram on a boat where he was listening to one of the songs and it had a Lauryn Hill sample. It was so good. Donald Glover actually recently released something that said his biggest album yet is to come. I thought he was done with the Childish Gambino moniker after his somewhat lackluster release last year, but if he has a huge album coming out soon, I can't wait. I'm ready. I need some more Donald Glover ASAP. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching. More videos coming soon. Make sure you leave a comment below with the albums you're looking forward to this year. I hopefully missed some. I'd love to hear about them. Thanks for watching. Take it easy.